I'm Tyler Jones, and coming up on this edition of the Racing Roundtable, I'm going to tell you why short track racing has been fixed. The new 750 horsepower package has saved the day.
I'm Dominic Aragon with the RacingExperts.com, and I'm going to tell you why Ty Gibbs is on the verge of winning and winning frequently.
I'm Matt Kemp. I'll tell you why the approval process doesn't need fixing.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Racing Roundtable. Tyler Jones here with you. So glad to have you with us, joined alongside by Dominic Aragon, Matt Kemp, and John Newby of FanBuzz is set to join us coming up in just a few moments from right now. We will take a look back at the weekend that was in Phoenix as Ryan Blaney gets it done, delivering the weekend sweep for Team Penske as they embarked their 60th anniversary celebration. We'll talk all about that coming up in just a little while from right now. We'll have our news and notes with our top headlines in the sport as well. We'll look ahead to this weekend's action as the NASCAR Cup Series remains out west in Vegas. We'll preview that as well coming up later on in the show. Guys, let's begin with Ryan Blaney getting it done. What a drive for Ryan Blaney to come through the field twice. They had their issues on pit road. We saw how well Christopher Bell was running, and Ty Gibbs, of course, was right in contention. Ultimately, Ryan Blaney on the final restart, he's able to get by Ty Gibbs and get the victory. Dominic, this was just Ryan Blaney's day. This team was, they had the best car. Ryan Blaney, the way he was able to drive through the field, the way he was to overcome those mistakes. This was an impressive performance.
Very impressive. And I want to give credit where credit's due. I don't know if it was you, Tyler, or somebody else that was there on site this weekend that had said in their story that this was potentially the drive of Ryan Blaney's career. Yes, he's won a championship, and he didn't win that race a couple of years ago, but to overcome the two mistakes and the pit crew and the trials and tribulations on pit road to pass all the cars that he did and be in contention to win the race, one heck of a drive for Ryan Blaney. And of course, being a numbers guy, that ties him 49th on the all-time wins list with legends, Tyler, Jeff Bodine, Neil Bonnet, Harry Gant, Casey Kane, Ryan Newman. Blaney didn't even know he had tied those guys on the wins list till it was brought up after the race. And you're starting to chart into some really legendary territory with that. 18 wins is no joke, and he's just getting started.
18 wins and a championship. If he decided to retire tomorrow, he's in the Hall of Fame at this point already. Matt Kemp joining us as well. Matt, what a weekend for Team Penske. We mentioned the 60th anniversary celebration that went on. They had a big party on Saturday night at the Team Penske Racing Museum in Scottsdale. Joseph Newgarden got the win in the IndyCar race with this doubleheader that went on. They started on pole. Team Penske did for both the IndyCar and the Cup Series race. Just a perfect weekend for this organization, just as they could have imagined. And we knew that they were going to be strong with coming into Phoenix, winning two of the last three races there, and this team delivered on all fronts.
You know, it actually kind of felt to me like Hendrick Motorsports celebrating their 40th year anniversary at Martinsville a few years back. It almost felt inevitable for Penske to come through and have that kind of a weekend. But you know, it was no surprise, right? Like they've obviously had kind of a hold on that place in the next gen car, especially, and it's just a cherry on top to bring IndyCar there, the series that Roger essentially is in charge of and owns, and to dominate that and the Cup Series race. So I'd say a pretty good weekend for them.
Desert Double, first time that NASCAR and IndyCar were on the same track at the same weekend since 2023 in Indianapolis. The IndyCar race was pretty solid with Newgarden winning. I thought the Cup race was really good. Then you add in the O'Reilly race with what Justin Allgaier did, going from sixth to first on the final restart. Exciting showing there, and attendance across the board was good. A lot of energy in the building all weekend long. I loved it. I want to see more of these doubleheader weekends of NASCAR and IndyCar working together. IndyCar's not on NASCAR's level when it comes to attendance or TV ratings or any of that. I think IndyCar needs NASCAR more than NASCAR needs IndyCar. But with Roger Penske owning teams in both series and owning IndyCar, I don't think there's any reason why these series can't work together, promote each other for more events like this.
It makes a lot of sense to have motorsports working together, and who better to help pave the way than Roger Penske and Penske Entertainment, and being able to maybe we get a few of these a year, Tyler. But it seemed like the reception was great. You saw a lot of crossover even with television, with IndyCar drivers in the booth on Sunday, Joey Logano taking the reins as the driver analyst with Fox on Saturday. A lot of fun, a lot of cool things, and a very unique opportunity to see two different motorsports disciplines on the same track in the same day. You're right. It doesn't happen often.
Yeah,
Rising tides raise all ships. Is that right?
Yes. You also had Townsend Bell and James Hinchcliffe in the Fox booth for the second stage in the Cup race. So that was pretty cool. And one more point on Phoenix before we bring in John here, Dom. How about Ty Gibbs? Credit where credit's due. This is a pressure-packed season for him to prove himself, and there's, of course, a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes with the Chris Gabehart lawsuit that he's been mentioned in a few times. But nonetheless, strong showing from Ty Gibbs, much needed here in this crucial season.
Had a really good chance to really showcase what he could on those final restarts, and took the lead and had the lead till a handful of laps to go. And the last pass for the lead was from Ryan Blaney to take the win. So, like I said at the top of the show, Ty Gibbs is looking strong and stouter than ever. Tyler, I remember last year you were riding him saying Ty Gibbs is in trouble. We're not seeing a fast Ty Gibbs, and it's a polar opposite now with 2 straight top 5 finishes. We're going to Vegas where he has shown speed. He's really good on the short tracks. It wouldn't surprise me to see Ty Gibbs go into victory lane more than once this year. It's a breakout year in the making for Ty.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Dom, our next guest, we see this guy at the racetrack all the time. He's a great friend of ours. We've broken bread with him before, and we're pleased to have John Newby here on the Racing Roundtable. Tell folks about John.
Yeah, John's got an impressive resume, and he's been covering motorsports for the better part of about 6 years. And some of his past credentials and outlets he's worked for has included covering the NFL and NASCAR and pop culture, 24/7 sports, stops at NBC Sports and Heavy as well. And just an all-around great guy, very depth of knowledge when it comes to this sport, and an even better human being. John, thank you so much for joining us again here on the Racing Roundtable.
No problem at all. I thought we were not bringing up that Vegas dinner. What's that whole saying about things that stay in Vegas?
Well, we didn't discuss things that went on at the dinner table there, what was discussed. So I guess maybe we did keep that rule intact, right?
Good point. That's very good point right there.
You know, I give Dominic a lot of shit on this show. But that place, I can't remember the name of it, Dom, was a good call. Like, it wasn't a bad steak. It wasn't a great steak, but it was great for the price.
Do we reveal that on the show, or do we talk about
I think
that?
we do, because we are headed to Vegas this weekend, and maybe people are looking for us for a little help, somewhere to eat or something.
Ellis Island in the Village Pub. That was a great spot. It's just off the strip, I believe, off Koval, near that Top Golf, and not too far away from the Sphere. And then them being with the Irish theme, it's going to be St. Patrick's Day in a few days. So I'm sure it's going to be a very lively place too.
Yeah. John, catch us up to speed. What do you got going on these days at FanBuzz? What's going on in your world, man?
All right. So I have been with them for the better part of 2 years now. Joined them just after the Coke 600 in 2024. After my stop at NBC Sports, they had an opening because they wanted to basically rebuild fanbuzz.com from the ground up after purchasing it. So they brought me in to primarily focus on motorsports early. So lots of NASCAR coverage. Also for another website called Alt Driver that they owned. Helped out a little bit on the NFL side, but right now, just trucking forward, just keeping with telling the good stories in motorsports. Obviously, there's the standard race recaps that we do, but also get to have some fun, unique stories. Like, tomorrow I'm going to go interview the guy who trains Noah Gregson, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., all these different people, because they built a custom gym at the Roush Yates shop here in Mooresville. So I got to go check out that spot, see how all those different training styles go down and how they differ from, what's happening at Toyota at the Performance Center, or what's happening with Chevy with the Josh Wise program, because every single manufacturer has their own kind of way that they approach situations. And a lot of drivers, pick ones that work the best for them. And it's just fun seeing how everyone changes their approach and how it's changed over the years since, like Casey Kane and Jimmy Johnson are the ones really kind of spearheading that whole effort. So yeah, I have a lot of freedom to tell some fun stories that not everybody is telling. So yeah, that's just kind of where I'm at with that stuff. Just having fun, just seeing what unique stuff I can figure out.
Now,
Is this the
you
last
said
time that we had-
Mooresville. I'll jump in real quick. Now, I'm sorry. You escaped the cold and snow of Montana recently, right?
Oh man, escaped is a bad way to phrase it. I love Montana, and
Okay.
because and generations of my family were cattle ranchers back there, and they would beat me senseless if they were still alive for insulting Montana. So, but I did learn a lesson living there for a few years that while I got to go to some great races in Las Vegas, Phoenix, Fontana, rest in peace, it was much harder to get to, the Charlottes, the Daytonas, Darlingtons, all those. So back in 2023 after Richmond, my wife and I moved out to Charlotte because that way, I could go from like 6 races a year to 20 to 25 by driving to most of them. And flights are a lot cheaper out this way.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. In fact, Tyler, you and I were on the same wavelength there. That was going to more or less be the question. Was you were on the West Coast like me, and
Mm-hmm.
now you're in the Charlotte area. You're in the NASCAR hub, and none of us on this panel have had the opportunity to live out there just yet. So, what has that been like to be out there and be just a part of that NASCAR culture and see everything on a day-to-day basis?
It is it's surreal sometimes because like from a professional standpoint it's great because you get invites to like some behind closed doors media sessions because NASCAR will, every now and then will bring in drivers to their production facility just for like some in-person informal interviews, and you get to take advantage of some of those things. You get to go to like driver announcements, sponsor announcements, car unveilings at the shops or at the Hall of Fame, some of these really cool areas. So it's great for like a getting your name out there, talking to people, building those relationships because this is such a relationship driven sport as opposed to, like college football or NFL where I was at before. And then from a personal standpoint, especially because I live within walking distance of like the Toyota Performance Center or of downtown Mooresville where they have like the Walk of Fame with all the drivers' names, you'll just be walking around going to a coffee shop and just be like, oh, hey, there's a famous driver or a famous team executive, like one of the coffee shops I frequent, Steve Loletta from 2311 is constantly there. So every time I walk in, I'm like, man, this, helping run this massive organization that's contending for wins every week. And apparently he and I are just getting the same coffee at this random backwoods coffee shop.
That's great. Glad things are going well for you. That you're enjoying North Carolina and all it has to offer with that. And I'm very curious. You mentioned adjusting and making this move out there and being in the sphere of things. Is NASCAR conversations with people much more commonplace than when you were living West Coast? Does that come up with just everyday people more so now than before?
1000%. Because when I was living in Montana, the only times you would really have these conversations, like there was one airport in Helena where I lived where the guy at the rental car counter was a huge Bubba Wallace fan. So anytime like I came in, he'd ask me about how Bubba was doing or how 2311 was doing. But then you'd see like, a lot of Hendrick fans live out in Montana apparently, and then they'd fly down to Phoenix for championship weekend. But that'd be about it. Whereas here, my wife works at a vet clinic and there's just constantly people from the industry going in to bring their dogs there. And then when we take our animals to our vet, which is a different part of the area, she'll tell stories about how she used to work on like Dale Earnhardt's animals way back in the day and how, she's known like Kyle Larson since he was younger and like all these different drivers. And she'd be like, yeah, this is wild, hearing you talk about these people as drivers from a work standpoint. And I just know them for, treating their animals.
Yeah. You're not going to find that here in New Mexico. I'm probably in your boat, John. I don't know about you, but I would find like somebody once in a while, like an obscure Casey Mears t-shirt from 2006 at Walmart. I'd make it a point to go stop and talk to him or compliment somebody on a Jeff Gordon or Kyle Busch shirt, but very far and few between when we're 1,500 miles away from Charlotte.
Yeah, I mean, even another example, so the realtor that I just purchased a house up here because I'd sold my house in Oregon from a long time ago. And my wife and I were having dinner with her and her husband the other night. And she was asking me about John Hunter Nemechek. Turns out that, like, back in the day when she was a school teacher, that John Hunter was in her class when he was in like grade school. And then also, like, Tyler Reddick's son was at their house a while back, learning how to play like air hockey.
That's cool.
Like, this is the weirdest conversation I've ever had.
That's incredible. John, let's shift gears and look back at this weekend in Phoenix with Ryan Blaney pulling into victory lane. What was kind of your thoughts on the events that unfolded there in the Valley?
The drive itself was just ridiculously impressive, overcoming all of those, loose wheels, all those different pit road issues that they had. The part that was more impressive to me is how he has gone from the driver that was kind of like, oh man, is he ever going to break through? To the driver that has more of like that killer gene in him. Like, you're not going to see him, shifting incorrectly and spinning out on the Homestead pit road exit like he did a few years back. You're not going to see him make these kind of dumb mistakes behind the wheels in the pressure packed moments. Now, when something goes bad, you fully expect Ryan Blaney to work his way back through the field and just show that he is one of the best drivers in NASCAR. And he did that yet again, to where, yes, he had like a small kind of sarcastic comment over the radio towards his team about, hey, let's not lose any more positions after the second loose wheel. But the way that he just came back through the field, like you guys said, past Ty Gibbs, and basically just put on a show and show that he is a master of Phoenix, even though he's only now won there twice. It's just crazy how much he has grown over the years. And I just want to know, like, what his ceiling is after getting that 18th win and continuing to move up that leaderboard.
I don't know if you guys have noticed this year, but a few times on the broadcast they've mentioned how much more center speed the 12 car has compared to pretty much any other car on the track.
Oh yeah.
I think that's a Blaney thing. I don't know that that's a Penske car thing. I'm sure, obviously it helps and they have something figured out between the driver and the car, but uh, I think it's just a Blaney thing, and we might be entering an era of Ryan Blaney here, but you're spot on with Phoenix. But overall, man, it's more than just Phoenix, I think.
Well, I like the way that you phrase that, because one thing that's fascinating is you always forget how kind of young he is. A lot of these other drivers who have been around for a very long time, the veterans, they don't like the Gen 7 car. It does not fit their driving style. Whereas it seems like Blaney is maturing into that, championship. I mean, obviously he has a championship, but maturing into a multi-time style driver along with the car. It's not like he's trying to reteach himself how to drive.
And it makes me wonder. I know that he's got 18 wins now. I believe he's 32 years old.
Hmm.
Um, I know he's a champion, but we've only seen Ryan Blaney win at most three, four races in a year.
Yeah.
Um, John, do you think maybe it's this year? Maybe it's a few years from now. Do you ever think we see things shift of Ryan Blaney dominating where he can rattle off five, six, seven, 8 wins in a year? Is he ever going to be that type of driver, you think?
Talent wise, absolutely. Everything has to kind of come together perfectly, whether from like the pit road issues, you can't have any of those. You need to not have any mechanical failures. Obviously, it's a lot harder with the parity created by this car where everything's so close and so identical. But yeah, I absolutely could realistically see in him breaking off a season where it's like 6, 7, 8 wins.
You're muted, Dom.
There we go. He's got the resources to do it. He's got the team to do it. It's just a matter of, will the pit crew continue to help his cause? And I feel like I heard that a lot this week, and maybe you all did too. Like, the theme was that Ryan Blaney is going to be fast, but how will his pit crew affect his race? And we saw it, but he was still able to overcome that. And I don't know, as a driver, if something like that, even though you do win the race, Matt, does that give you more momentum? Is that also frustrating at the same time? Does that kill momentum, even though you've won the race and you still have to overcome these issues with your team? Because it is a team sport.
I definitely think it's a team building day. I mean, if anything, it gives you more confidence that hey, it don't matter what they throw at us. We got it covered, right? So, uh, yeah, and forgive me, I was pulling up his stats right here because I'm like, 18 wins. Are we saying that right? That does not sound right for Ryan Blaney,
Crazy.
but it's crazy. I mean, he's got
Mhm.
18 career wins. Um, and it doesn't seem like he's been around that long, but I guess he has. So, um, yeah, no, definitely a team building day. And I think, I don't know, I'd be a little worried if I was everybody else. Not maybe we'll get a few more races down the road because, it's Phoenix again. Penske's great at Phoenix. Blaney's great at Phoenix. I don't want to overstate it, right? But yeah, we'll see it here in a couple of weeks what we're saying about Ryan Blaney.
So right now, you look at the points. Tyler Reddick's got a 67-point lead. Ryan Blaney is sitting there, 67 points back. And we saw Reddick, of course, win those first three races. Blaney wins this week. John, I know we're only four races in, but have those two separated themselves? And if not, who do you see being their biggest competition here?
Oh, that's a good question because it's so early in the season and we haven't had a lot of the traditional stuff like the Kansas, the Charlotte, obviously Las Vegas is in that group. I think that there's definitely someone else who will step into that role. I mean, I look at Denny Hamlin and how good he is at places like Darlington and Kansas. I could see him, especially after kind of like recovering from the early issues of the season and getting back into the chase contingent. I could see him, rattling off a couple wins, especially at all those intermediate tracks. Obviously, Talladega, that's kind of a crapshoot coming up, and then you never know what's going to happen at the short tracks like Bristol and Martinsville, just because you know they may have ridiculous tire failure issues that they didn't anticipate, or the tires may not wear at all, just depending on how the weather is going. So I still think it's a little too early, but yeah, if I had to pick one, obviously I'd say Denny at the top of the list, and then maybe, oh man, it's so hard to push like someone like Kyle Larson to the side just because he's capable of rattling off so many wins per season. But I'm still waiting for Chris Buescher to have one of those like really big breakout years because he's so close and so consistent. But he's only had, one multi-win season. But I'm waiting for him to have another one where he's just really challenging for the championship.
I love the Chris Buescher shout out. I'm all in on Chris Buescher.
Yeah. It seemed like we were going to be getting a lot of those Chris Buescher years in 23. He knocked off the 3 wins. I think he even made it to the round of 8 and just kind of fizzled out. And yes, he is still showing speed. He's quite the sleeper on the road courses, and the RFK seems to have something figured out in the mile and a half. But yeah, I'm with you, John. I'm waiting for Chris to have another breakout year because I feel like we haven't seen that full potential arise yet. They've been very patient with him, and you can tell he's part of the long-term plan. But some of the results need to start showing up too.
And I know part of that's also because of, pit road issues, mechanical failures, things like that. But yeah, it's just one of those days I just kind of keep waiting for it to happen.
Yes, and RFK to kind of have a breakout thing. I said at the beginning of the year that Keselowski was going to have a breakout year. RFK was going to be back. I'm curious your thoughts on them as a collective and an organization.
I mean, they're all very talented drivers. Like, I'm a big Ryan Preece believer. And with Brad, it definitely depends on any lingering effects he might have from that femur. But they're all very capable drivers. They're all capable of winning races. They have very good pit crews. They have the speed overall because you can tell that it's not like the chasm that was before. It'd be like, Penske up here, the other four teams down here. RFK's up there as well. It's just a matter of kind of just breaking through that last little hurdle. But I could easily see all of them winning a race. It just kind of depends on if they're making that consistent progress this year, I guess is a way to put it.
Yeah, they were down as an organization, Tyler. They none of them made the playoffs last year, which is hard to believe.
But they're all really high in points, though.
Right. Right. Didn't get to victory lane, but Preece, I was impressed with what he did to win the Clash, and I thought that was the start of something good for him. I'd be surprised if we don't see Ryan Preece in victory lane this year. John, this weekend, the short track package made its debut. Of course, we saw 750 horsepower at COTA, but totally different animal at the short tracks there. I liked what we saw. I thought the racing was competitive. Saw a lot of passing, which has been arguably the biggest complaint about this car on short tracks. What was kind of your thoughts? Did you like what you saw, and do you think that this type of racing is here to stay?
I absolutely liked what I saw, and I was very concerned because talking to drivers at COTA, both before the race and after the race, I talked to quite a few, like Ross Chastain, Noah Gragson, Shane Van Gisbergen, and every single one of them was like, we couldn't tell a difference at Bowman Gray because it was just you didn't have enough room. You're basically just like accelerating and then immediately slamming on the brakes. And they couldn't really tell a difference on the road course either for whatever reason. It's just whether it was not enough time on throttle or what was going on, but they couldn't really figure out if it really was that change of a package. But then hearing them kind of get stunned at Phoenix and be like, oh my goodness, we actually, we're burning through tires. This is all going way harder than we expected. I mean, I love that fact. And I loved watching them have to contend with managing their tires, not burning through their stuff super early. Like, you don't want to see tires blowing all the time. But I thought it was a pretty good balance of if you push these Goodyears too hard, there's a good chance you're going to end up in the wall if you're just not careful with them. And, it didn't devolve to the like Texas from a few years back where they were just like blowing through tires every couple laps. So I think it was a very compelling product, especially like you said, the ability to pass. Because, I mean, you remember a few years back where Priest won the pole, I believe it was at Martinsville, and he led like the entire first stage, got a penalty on pit road, and then finished, buried in the field because he couldn't pass. Now it seems like that's not as much of an issue as Ryan Blaney showed. If you get a penalty, you can still kind of recover from it.
And kind of a side note on that, I don't know if any of you guys noticed in the broadcast. I had this pointed out to me, and I just couldn't unsee it. When a driver would get through the center of the corner and kind of roll off and start going down the backstretch, especially off of two, you could tell when the driver was getting back on the gas because it looked like the back end. I saw this a lot with Blaney. It's like the back end of the car was just kicking out ever so slightly. So that horsepower was definitely noticeable from a visual element.
Absolutely.
One quick note on the package, actually. I don't know if you guys saw, I think it was on Denny Hamlin's podcast. He was talking about how Darlington's going to be crazy when they get there because of how much of a difference the package is going to make. So I think that's pretty promising that he felt that much, that he thinks that it's going to make a difference. So I don't know if he's just saying it just to give us false hope, but I can't imagine he would do that. It's working if that's what he's trying to do.
Yeah, 4-second fall off sounds like that's going to be very noticeable at Darlington.
I mean, they were flirting with 2 seconds at Phoenix last weekend, so I mean, Darlington's known for shredding tires anyway.
Yeah. We'll see. The doubleheader weekend, John, we mentioned first time since 2023 in Indy, first time at Phoenix. Perfect weekend for Team Penske. What'd you think of the doubleheader weekend? Do you like NASCAR and IndyCar working together? And do you think we're going to see more of this?
Man, I hope so. I love it when series, promote each other, work together to try to make this stuff happen. Like Matt said earlier, rising tide lifts all ships. It's one of those things where not only from a promotion, building excitement standpoint, it's cool just seeing two different types of cars on the same track. You can kind of compare the speeds. Everyone is going like, oh man, these IndyCar drivers are going so much faster than the Cup Series drivers. But they have more control, whereas the Cup Series cars, it's fun because they're out of control, they're sliding around, they're trying to make this work. So I love being able to compare and contrast like that. The other thing that I think would be huge moving forward if they did this is NASCAR loves to experiment with their schedule. There's all these different places they want to go. But think about the fact that they said during court, during that trial back in December, that they lost, I believe, $50 million over 3 years of the Chicago street race. Imagine partnering with IndyCar to do a street race weekend. That kind of helps with the cost offsets, Both of you are kind of bearing the brunt of that to where it makes it more manageable. And I think it opens up opportunities to take on different parts of the country or they want to go to Brazil, all these different areas. I think it makes some of that stuff a lot more feasible to where you can bring both of these series to new audiences.
That's an awesome thought on the business front.
I never thought about that. That would make a ton of sense. You get two series that are polar opposite, but if you're working together towards, like you said at the beginning of the show, Matt, of rising tide will raise all ships, That's a great case in point of that.
And I mean, I'm just saying, like Austin Dillon's talked about how he wants to go race in Dallas. Imagine if they bring back the Arlington Grand Prix next year and then bring NASCAR along for the ride. Like, yes, he's not racing inside Dallas Cowboys Stadium like he wants, but you still get a race around the stadium. And I think it'd be fun to watch the Cup cars racing through the Arlington Entertainment District.
Yeah. And we heard Pato O'Ward was last year very upset with IndyCar that they did not get the Mexico City race before NASCAR. And he even tried to find a way in the NASCAR race, but it didn't work out schedule wise. And NASCAR, had their own schedule issues this year, couldn't go back to Mexico City. How much bigger would that be to have both series in Mexico City together? And figure that out. To me, I think it's a great idea to do more of this stuff going forward, and hopefully we see it in the future here. Looking ahead to this weekend at Vegas, this is a place that I think all of us have been to. We mentioned John and Dominic and I, broke bread together many years ago at Vegas. That track, John, we've seen some of the best racing in NASCAR on these mile and a halves with this car. And so now you go to Vegas with the way the season has started here. I don't know about you. I got high expectations for a good race this weekend. What say you?
Oh, absolutely. And I was looking through the stats trying to find a theme of like, has, like how Christopher Bell's had won the last two, Spring Phoenix races, and he probably should have won this last year if it wasn't for a pit stop call. I was looking, do you have that same trend in Las Vegas? And you really don't. Like Kyle Larson's been good there, Joey Logano's been good there, Josh Berry won there last year. So you're sitting there trying to figure out like, okay, which driver is going to win this race? Because there's a bunch that have been good, but some of them haven't closed the deal. Like Christopher Bell's been really good at Vegas, but something always falls apart at the end. Bubba Wallace has been good there. Tyler Reddick's been pretty good there. You just don't know like which driver's going to pop up and actually capture the win at Vegas. And I think that makes it pretty fun and compelling because there's so many different drivers who could realistically step up and do it. And you could also just have some random driver pop out of the blue like Josh Berry did. So I think it's when you combine those storylines with just the way the Gen 7 cars race on intermediate tracks, I think it makes it a blast to watch. And I just love being able to anticipate some of these races and not just go, oh, well, this guy's just going to dominate and win.
Yeah, Vegas does set the stage for that. And I feel more often than not, we do at some point get a long green flag run and you see drivers try to gamble. And I know on more than one occasion, at least twice, Michael McDowell has really tried that long game gamble and goes and leads 10, 12, 13, 14 laps. And that'll be fun and excited to see who tries to gamble, who can try to time a caution on those long runs. Vegas really sets the stage for that.
If someone's going to gamble, it's going to be Travis Peterson.
Michael McDowell on the stat column at the end of the race, unless something happens, will show that he led a bunch of laps.
Mm-hmm. We'll see if it pays off this time. It would have paid off at Daytona, but we'll see. See if they can make it happen at Vegas.
John, one more thing on Vegas I'll bring up too. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like when we look at the NASCAR schedule, it's pretty easy to identify what I would call the marquee events that stand out above the rest. Obviously, you have your crown jewels, but just being frank, some weekends mean more than others. I would say, that Nashville race has turned into one of the top 10 races on the schedule. John and I have been out there several times. You look at some of the others. I was so impressed. My first trip to Phoenix this weekend. I know they've hosted the championship, but that to me feels like a marquee weekend. Vegas, I would say the same thing, John. They're two dates. They put on great racing. You get all the glitz and glamour of Vegas that come along with that. Like to me, in the time of year this race too, like the weather is going to be perfect, I would imagine here. I mean, there's a lot to like about this Vegas race and just the event that it's going to become. Maybe it's not the Vegas Grand Prix like what F1 has, but NASCAR is. I feel like they've done this right.
No, absolutely. And to your point about the different kind of marquee events, there's ones that are up there because of like the racing, but there may not be as many fan amenities. There's some that kind of mix it a little bit of both. Like I know the fuel saving issues at Talladega, it's sometimes not the most compelling race for the first two stages. but you do have an exciting ending, and then you also have the craziness that happens in the infield, which some of those stories you can't tell. Vegas is one of those things where it delivers great racing start to finish. Like Dominic said, you have the long green flag runs where you're sitting there going, oh man. See, I nerd out about the pit strategy stuff. I love long green flag runs where you're sitting there going, oh man, who's going to short pit? Who's going to run long? Like, what's going to happen? Vegas delivers that during that final stage. You're basically on the edge of your seat. You're going like, all right, who's going to do what? But then you do also have, like you have in Nashville, you have the fan amenities at the track, but you also have all of the surrounding areas. Las Vegas Motor Speedway, it's a few miles from the strip, but it's still closer than, Nashville Super Speedway is from downtown Nashville. So it's a little bit easier for people to just go on, hit the town, hit up the nightlife, go get some good food, go check out all the fun sites down there. I mean, I was in Vegas 2 weeks ago for a Def Leppard concert, and just being there, you're like, oh man, this is just such a fun experience. And then when you pair it with just the over the top pre-race ceremonies, which are always great, the great racing on the track, all the different storylines that happen, like it's definitely up there as one of those. Yeah, like you said, probably a top 10 event for this NASCAR season.
Yeah, I think drivers have it circled, fans have it circled. In fact, Matt, I know you haven't made too many treks west, but you and your wife got the chance to go to the Vegas race last year too.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. It was one of the coolest tracks. Man, I don't even know if I want to say it because I want people to go there and experience it and not be expecting it. But I'll tell you what, before the race, I'll say it anyway. Before the race, the coolest damn thing was when they did the flyover and they just like appeared over the mountains and came flying over. It was like that was some of the coolest things. That was one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life. I felt quite American in that moment. I loved it. So that was pretty sweet. The track's awesome. Obviously, Vegas. That was my first time actually being in Vegas. So getting to experience it all at once again, super close together. Great area for race fans to go out and experience an area and if you're a guy who loves racing and your wife's kind of like racing's all right, you get you can kind of work it in there as a trip. Hey, you want to go to Vegas? By the way, there's a race going on, so you can kind of work it in that way too.
Also, one thing I
go ahead.
One thing that I love about the track itself is when you're wandering around just the different like fan areas. Guaranteed, you're going to see an Elvis impersonator hanging out next to the front gates of the track, just singing songs as you're getting ready for a NASCAR race. You'd be like, oh man, get to hear Viva Las Vegas. Then I got to go watch cars go about 198.
Oh yeah, ton of fun. And like Matt, like you were saying, thankfully my wife does like NASCAR and she's going as our photographer this week. And so she's helping with our coverage as well. So that's even better.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Should be a great time. Hopefully you guys enjoy yourselves out there in Vegas. I wish I was there, but I got some other duties calling. But, I think Matt brought up a point, like, hey, you're in Vegas and there's a race going on. There's certain markets that NASCAR goes to, and people have no idea that there's a NASCAR race in town. But Vegas, SMI, to their credit, does a really good job promoting it where even if there is UFC or if there's a big concert at the Sphere, word is still around town that NASCAR is there and that their presence is known. And I expect nothing less again this weekend. Let's get to our top headlines in the sport, our latest news and notes. Dom, Alex Bowman, we did not see last week, and I don't know when we will see him next.
And at the time of this taping, because it is midweek, things can change. Alex Bowman is on the entry list for the Pennzoil 400, but remains to be seen if he will be behind the wheel of the number 48 this weekend. Last weekend, Hendrick Motorsports had announced midweek Anthony Alfredo would be taking the reins of the 48 car because Alex Bowman had been diagnosed with vertigo and was not going to be able to race at Phoenix. And recall from a couple weeks before, too, he was pulled out of the car, or he pulled out of the car in stage 3 at the Austin race, the Circuit of the Americas, with Myatt Snyder filling in. So, again, at the time of this taping, no word if Bowman is racing at Las Vegas, but he is on the entry list as of Tuesday afternoon.
Whether he races or not, nonetheless, trying to come back from vertigo, this is going to be extremely difficult.
Yeah, this isn't something you can just like walk off. I've had family members that have been diagnosed with vertigo, and it's something that can linger. It is something that doesn't just go away. So it just seems, Tyler, like we don't know the full story right now, but there has to be a lot of layers to this.
Yeah, John, your thoughts on the situation here. This is going to be. I feel like this is a long road for Alex Bowman here.
I mean, I definitely worked with a guy who had vertigo. He was probably 20 years older than Alex Bowman is now, so I don't know if that affects the recovery timeline at all. But it is just like a scary situation because unlike certain things, like when he came back from a fractured back or fractured vertebra or the concussions, like there is that clear trajectory of, all right, you hit these milestones in recovery, you should be back. With vertigo, you don't know how he's going to react behind the wheel. I mean, like they said, he did some tests last week over at the 1010 Motor Club in Concord and was driving and then just, you know, wasn't quite where he needed to be. And it's just, that is just one of those medical situations where it's just such a mystery, for lack of a better word, where you're just sitting there trying to, like, you hope everything is going up well this week with his testing, but you just don't know.
Matt, I want to get your driver's perspective on this. For Alex Bowman, to be dealing with this, it's hard enough as is to be driving a race car, and now you're talking about overcoming this. We don't know if it's going to be this weekend or when he's going to step back into a race car, but it's quite the challenge that we're talking about of what he's facing.
Yeah, and not to mention, all the pressure and all the different conversations that have been going on the past few years. I feel like that doesn't really help his situation where, a lot of people are basically saying like he needs to step it up right now. He's going to be out for who knows how long, and I don't want to sit here and speculate on his health situation, but one thing I will say that whenever Bowman does get back, it seems like it's been, unfortunately for him, he's had this a few times in his career where he's gotten some either hurt or has had some kind of injury or something that's kept him out of a race car for periods of time before. So he knows what it takes to come back and be stronger. So who knows? Sometimes a little break, even if it's for something obviously not ideal like this. Who knows? Maybe he just needs a little bit of a break, and hopefully, if he gets that, obviously recovering for something, but hopefully, it ultimately at the end of the day can help him, and he can come back stronger than he was when he started here.
Um, Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that he is in a contract year,
Yeah.
and his performance, as Matt mentioned, has been widely criticized, and a lot of people calling for him to be replaced in all of that. Him being out of the race car does not help his cause when, at the moment, he doesn't have a contract in place for next year.
Well, not only that, but like as a racer, when you have to watch someone else drive your car, I can only imagine that's like got to be the worst feeling in the world, especially with all the conversations going on. And then you're trying to deal with what he's having to deal with on the health side. It's like uh, really a rough deal. And I'm sure he's not having a good time with that. But, um, you know, like I said, it's not the first time he's had to set out of a race car for a period of time. So hopefully he can come back stronger.
If John, if you had to predict right now, do you think Alex Bowman's back in 48 next year?
It depends on how heavily Hendrick Motorsports listens to Ally, because Ally loves Alex. Like, I talk to them frequently, and they never say anything bad about him. They're constantly talking about all the good work that he does with behind the scenes for just all of the different endeavors that they want to go with. So I think that I would lean more like 70-30 he's back, because I know the person that people always try to replace him with, Carson Hocevar, just signed that massive deal with Spire that keeps him there through the 2030s. So I know that like removes one piece of the equation, because if you're looking at the landscape of drivers, it's like, who are you going to pick to replace him? Because there's not a ton of guys coming up who are fully ready. Like, I know Hendrick loves Raja, but he's just in his first full season in the O'Reilly series. Corey Day, obviously, it's in his first full season. He's experiencing some growing pains over there. Whereas, Bowman, like, he has proven that he can win races in both the Gen 6 and the Gen 7 era. Obviously, his track record is better with Greg Ives as his crew chief than it has been with Blake Harris as the crew chief. They've had lots of issues on, the pit crew side of that whole team. but he has proven that he can still win. Like when he has those opportunities late in races, like when he beat Kyle Busch at Vegas a few years ago, that was that clutch win that he kind of pulled off. And so he is capable of doing that. And I think that they have faith in him as a driver. But as this season progresses, you know, like to Matt's point, it kind of depends on how he comes back from vertigo and how he performs the rest of the season. But I still lean that more towards he will be back.
Yeah, I mean, as you bring up, John, there's just not a whole lot of other options out there. With Carson Hocevar re-signed now, I can't imagine Tyler Reddick wants to leave 23-11
No.
based on the way he started his season. So that probably takes him off the table. And then I know a lot of people would love to see Kyle Busch return to Hendrick Motorsports, but Dom, um, I do think RCR is more to blame than Kyle Busch for the performance situation. But if you're Hendrick Motorsports and Alex has this great relationship with Ally, and he's been running better than Kyle Busch has as of late, I don't really see Hendrick taking that risk to go with Kyle Busch at this point in his career either.
It'd be cool to see a Mark Martin situation where you have somebody in the twilight of their career go out with really good equipment, but it just doesn't look like. I feel like, and I offer this without any proof, but just with the relationships that are in place, I feel like a Kyle Busch move to Spire Motorsports in 27 would be a lot more likely than a Hendrick Motorsports move in 27.
Maybe so. You might be onto something there potentially. Dom, what else we got?
Speaking of drivers in that RCR camp, we kind of keep it in the RCR camp with Cleetus McFalarland set to make his NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts debut with Richard Childress Racing later this year at Rockingham. Garrett Mitchell, the YouTube personality known as Cleetus McFalarland, has made it very clear that his goal is to race in the Daytona 500 someday. Well, this gets him a little closer with 3 races signed this year and next year as part of a 2-year deal with Richard Childress Racing. Rockingham is the first confirmed race. There's speculation Talladega could be on that schedule as well. But nonetheless, Garrett Mitchell, a.k.a. Cleetus McFalarland, getting the call to run in the NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts this season with an established team, a championship-winning race team.
I know Matt has some strong thoughts on this, so let's begin with you here, Matt.
Yeah, so I opened the show kind of talking about how we don't need to fix the approvals process. That's kind of been the hot topic this week of, is this, what has he got? Five ARCA starts, and he's going one truck start, basically 7-8 laps in a truck, 28 laps in a truck if you count his test laps. What do you have to do? 20, 50 laps, whatever it was. Either way, less than 100 laps in a truck, and he's going O'Reilly Racing. Yeah, you don't need to fix the approvals process because it is beyond repair, my friends. It is not, as long as money talks louder than talent, you're going to have situations like this, and it will never change unless the situation changes where car owners are wanting to put drivers in their cars because of talent over money. And don't get me wrong, I'm actually I love the Garrett Mitchell, Cleetus McFalarland story here, and I think he's great for the sport. Actually, I think he's an asset to NASCAR, and I think he's actually I think he's helped the ARCA series out a lot. And I think his praises for the ARCA series helps the ARCA series. Obviously, his buddy Squirrel McNutt, George, is going racing in the ARCA East race, and people are talking about the approvals process there. And by the way, that is perfect. All right, like that's exactly where he should be. He's doing testing and everything right there. All right, that's not controversial. That's a good deal. But anyway. Yeah, so it's a cool opportunity. If I was in his shoes, I would say, hell yes, let's do it. Why not? But it's going to be a big learning curve. I hope those laps on the sim and some labs and something else kind of help him out, because it's going to be a big learning curve jumping from essentially starting your ARCA career to right into the O'Reilly series. It's a big jump.
So his now new teammate, Kyle Busch, was very critical of this and said that his son, Brexton, has more time in a race car than Cleetus does. And his son is, 10 years old?
Right.
John, the thing for me, I wasn't surprised to see him get approved because, no offense, but just reality here, Natalie Decker's allowed to run in the O'Reilly Auto Parts series. But to me, the shocker was RCR. I guess I'm out to offend everybody. If Carl Long makes this phone call, I'm not surprised. If Joey Gase makes this phone call, not surprised one bit. But Richard Childress, RCR, putting him in that car, like, to me, that was the big shock, was not that Cleetus is getting this chance, but with the team that literally just won the O'Reilly Championship last year.
It definitely caught me by surprise, especially when you saw that like Ty Dillon was telling Jeff Gluck from The Athletic that he was the one who was kind of behind that. They had a bunch of faith in Cleetus that this was going to work out. So, I mean, obviously, Austin and Ty, they're kind of the future of that company as far as the business side, all that stuff. So it makes sense that if one of those two would be pushing hard for it, that RCR would make it happen. My concern, for lack of a better word, is that he's going to make his debut at Rockingham. Because let me tell you, I went to the race weekend at Rockingham last year, and it did not matter which series was racing around that track. Those drivers, they had a handful. Those cars, those trucks, everything, they were out of control. They were struggling to make it through that course without wrecking. And I just can't imagine like it will be easy for him. I know that there are some similarities between the ARCA cars and the O'Reilly Series car, but it's still going to be a huge challenge for him to make it through practice and qualifying cleanly, let alone a race where he's going up against just that field in itself. Because yes, you have your heavy hitters like your Jesse Loves, your Justin Allgaiers, all those guys, but then you also have the people in the back of the not the back, people kind of further back in the field that are kind of, this is their livelihood. They're trying to get as many owners points as possible because there's always stacked entry lists. They don't want to get, fail to qualify because of owners points. Like it's a hornet's nest back there when you're looking at like 15th and back, which is where he'll probably be starting the race given the lack of experience. So can he make it through more than 5 laps than what he made at Daytona in that truck? Honestly, that's a big question with how that track itself races, plus the cars he'll be around.
Well, Dom, I like Cleetus. I think he's great for the sport. I think we all agree with that. But my legitimate concern, and I don't know the answer to this question, Dom, is how serious is Cleetus McFalarland? Is he out here to actually compete and win races, or is this all just a gimmick for social media engagement and to build up his racing influencer career? I don't know what the answer is to that question.
I would maybe say that the answer is going to lie more in that first part. And I would say the mentality has probably changed with the passing of Greg Biffle a few months back and Biffle being his mentor. I know Biffle was really, really big on Cleetus McFalarland, and I think there's definitely a change of mindset there too. And I think there's more maybe to prove to himself and to prove to others that, yes, you know what, Greg believed in me. I can believe in myself. I do think that goal of running the Daytona 500 is attainable. When that happens, maybe that's a few years down the road, but he's trying to take the right steps to being able to make that happen someday. He ran a handful of ARCA races last year. He's running a few races that are not super speedways. Plus, I don't know if he'd get the approval anyway, but at least at this point in juncture. But he is trying, and it would appear, Tyler, that he is making the right steps to try and make that goal complete.
Yeah, John, one thing too, we've seen him do these one-off ARCA events, and now some one-off O'Reilly events. Of course, sponsorship is a big part of all this, but do you think that we're talking next year of him landing his feet full-time in one of these series, whether it's trucks or ARCA or O'Reilly here, or is this kind of a sporadic of, I'm just going to take rides where I can get it?
Well, that's a good question because last year, heading towards the offseason, the big rumors that he was going to be one of the truck series drivers for Colleague, one of the full-time in that series. Obviously, that did not happen. I don't know if that was because of sponsorship or because of desire on his part. I think that if he wanted to, he could probably pull together a deal to go run full-time. So, I mean, it's definitely very possible. I would think that if you look at the O'Reilly field, it seems like it would be more likely that'd be like a full-time truck series ride next year as opposed to a full-time O'Reilly series, just based on the amount of money it takes. There's not as many like established names in the truck series. And just with the schedule, it still leaves a lot of time for all the stuff he has going on down at the Freedom Factory in Florida.
And Matt, you would know this. one thing that Natalie Decker, of all people, talked about the last couple of weeks was when you talk to sponsors and you look at the cost and then the purse payout. A lot of these drivers are saying to themselves, yes, the O'Reilly Series is much more challenging than ARCA, but from a financial standpoint, you're saying to yourself, we might as well just go ahead and pony up the money to be in the O'Reilly Series if we can, and that's what Cleetus is doing here.
Right, right. Well, and from the viewership standpoint, you've absolutely got that down to a T, right? I mean, that's really what his whole business is about, right? Is getting viewership and grabbing people's attention and having an audience. So it only makes perfect sense to jump in front of it. But I feel like the overall thing, here's my theory, is that the end goal here is to run the Daytona 500 in the number 33 car in 2028, I guess it would be. So that's my theory, is where he's going to end up, or what they're trying to do at this juncture.
And it seems like RCR is making that pathway for him. If your goal is to run the 500 in 2 years, let's create a pathway to that.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. Dom, let's look ahead to Vegas this weekend. We love talking betting on this show. What better way than Vegas, baby?
Than Vegas, and where you have a lot of gambling going on, and of course, people are going to make wagers on the race this weekend. But John, one thing we've done since the last time you joined us on the show, we go around the table and the panel makes their guess as to who the odds-on favorite is according to the odds makers and what those odds are. We'll start with you this week, John. Who do you think odds makers are making the Pennzoil 400 outright winner, and what are their opening odds?
My gut reaction said Reddick, but I think that at this point, the odds makers would still point to Kyle Larson.
Okay. Any guess on the odds that he would have?
No, see, I can't gamble because of contracts. So when it comes to like actually predicting the negative whatever, I'd just say some number that'd be way wrong.
No worries. Okay, so we've got John saying Larson. Tyler, let's say you.
I'll say Larson at about 450. And I'll throw this one in there too. I think Christopher Bell is going to be pretty high. I would say probably 500 or 600.
And Matt?
I feel like it's got to be a Penske car. I'm going to say Logano at 10-1.
We've got some variety across the board. The odds-on favorite, according to the Caesar Sportsbook at the time of this taping from Monday when they posted the opening odds, Kyle Larson, your odds-on favorite at plus 475, or about 4 3/4 to 1. Denny Hamlin and Christopher Bell each at 6-1 or plus 600. Ryan Blaney, Tyler Reddick, Chase Briscoe each coming in at plus 900. And William Byron at 10-1 or plus 1,000. Chase Elliott 13-1. Joey Logano, who's won this race multiple times, sitting at 14-1. Ross Chastain 16-1. Bubba Wallace 20-1. Josh Berry and Ty Gibbs also at 30-1 together. Alex Bowman, who again is on the entry list at this time, listed at 33-1. Carson Osavar and Chris Buescher at 35-1. And when you look at the other end of the spectrum on the board, your longest shots, Riley Herbst, Ty Dillon, each at 500-1. And Cole Custer and Cody Ware each at 1,000-1.
I'm most impressed, Ross.
Oh, Ross Chastain's odds at the time of this taping are 16-1 plus 1,600.
That surprised me a little bit because he's really good there.
Yeah,
he's led a lot of laps too in a trackhouse car in the next gen era.
Let's make some picks. Let's start with the gambling man himself, Dominic.
Well, people know I don't drink, I don't smoke, but I have enjoyed my gambling from time to time over the years. But nonetheless, I think all joking aside,
you're a roulette guy, right?
I'm a roulette guy. I do like to do the tables, blackjack a little bit, roulette.
You play craps?
Very poorly. Very poorly. So
what about Texas Hold'em?
I've done a little bit of Texas Hold'em, not tournament style, but done some online stuff. That's a lot of fun. But I don't know
what are you most likely to play this weekend in Vegas?
You'll probably find me at the roulette table.
Okay.
On the casino floor, we're gonna go to the roulette table. So I think it's just high speed racing. You're just trying to
throw it on red for me, please.
Throw it on red. Okay, all right, we'll do that. So I'm gonna go, Tyler. I think looking at gosh, it's such a stacked field, and it really is anyone's game. Pencil me in for Ty Gibbs to get his first career win this weekend.
All right, John.
Yeah,
give me your pick. Who wins?
Kyle Larson's too easy of a pick. I'm gonna go Ross.
Ooh, okay. How about you, Matt?
I like that. I'm going to say we're starting a new streak. Here goes Ryan Blaney.
Ooh, okay. 4 people on this panel, 4 different picks. Give me Christopher Bell to get
That's a
into
good
victory
pick, too.
lane this week.
Wow, we got a variety there. And like I said at the top of the show, Tyler, I'm really high on Ty Gibbs to have a really breakout year, and I think that momentum continues into Vegas. That first win's coming. We had a first-time winner last year with Josh Berry. Let's continue that trend.
I think it's a great thing we're talking about going to a race and not necessarily a clear favorite, that we're talking about a number of names that can win this weekend. That's a good sign for what's to come ahead. Before we go, guys, around the room, what's everybody got going on this weekend? Dom, you're off to Vegas, right?
I'll be at Vegas this weekend. My wife Felice is coming along as our photographer too. So it'll be great with our coverage at theracingexperts.com. And yeah, just follow us along there and should be a fun race weekend in Vegas. It's always a good time out there.
How about you, Matt? What are you doing?
Well, I'm definitely not betting. I literally, you said like the best odds were what, 6-1 or something like that. I said 10-1 for the best. That must have been like some super speedway picks or something. I don't know. You can tell how much gambling I do. So, not gambling. If I flip a quarter and there's 50-50 chance, I will get it wrong more times than not.
That's the one time tails does fail.
Right. Yeah. So,
John,
we're not gambling.
When are we going to see you at the racetrack next, and how can people follow your coverage, man?
So I am covering this race remotely because I'm wrapping up some other stories. The one I mentioned earlier with the gym stuff, and then another one I'm working on with NASCAR proper behind like all the crazy like cinematic videos they've been making that have like Marshawn Lynch and stuff in them. So I got to get those stories wrapped up. So then I will be at the Darlington, Martinsville, Bristol, Talladega stretch. So those will be, fun little like just over a month of those races, plus some of my favorite tracks to attend too. But as far as the coverage goes, fanbuzz.com/racing is where I'll post all the NASCAR stuff. And then if you want to follow me on Twitter, it is John Newby _. Make sure that's correct. That should be what my. You know how it's bad when you look at your Twitter profile and you don't actually remember what it is. Yes, it's John Newby _.
That's better than some of us.
Yes.
That's better than some of us that have a hacked X that we're trying to get back right now. But
yeah.
What's the update on that, Tyler? Are we going to get you back on X?
We're getting close. I've been told we're getting close.
Okay.
So it's been a painful run. I'll put it that way. Dom, next week we have an exciting guest joining us.
Stephen Diener of the Unidentified Alien Podcast is going to be joining the show next week. So that'll be a cool, unique crossover. He's got a totally different fan base, I think, than what we cover, but he is a NASCAR fan and a really old school NASCAR fan too. And I will say, guys, next week on the panel, it'll feel like, my opinion, and this is my opinion only, he has a voice that sounds like Alan Bestwick. So it'll feel like Alan Bestwick.
I love it. Can't wait for it. Folks, reminders always, check out all of our coverage, our NASCAR coverage from NASCAR Roundtable. I will not be there this weekend. I'm covering the Big 12 tournament in Kansas City, but Jonathan Feld will be on site doing coverage for us for our 4th out of the first 5 races. So pretty exciting for NASCAR Roundtable. Dominic will be on site with theracingexperts.com. Check that out there. Subscribe to the Racing Roundtable on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you're listening to podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review or don't leave us one at all. Hit us up on social media. We certainly would appreciate it. And hit that like button on the YouTube video as well. We appreciate John for joining us. Check out his great work with FanBuzz as well. And we'll put the checker flag out on this edition of the Racing Roundtable. For John Newby, Dominic Aragon, and Matt Kemp, I'm Tyler Jones saying so long. This has been another edition of the Racing Roundtable. We'll see you next week.